In our headlines on this Thursday, October 10th, South Korea and the ASEAN formally elevate their ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership during their latest bilateral summit in Laos, with their leaders ushering in a new chapter of productive exchanges. South Korea secures a seat on the UN Human Rights Council for the 2025 to 2027 term and pledges to promote greater awareness about North Korea's rampant and ruthless violations of human rights within its territory. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry this year was granted to 3 individuals who used artificial intelligence to better interpret existing proteins and to custom invent new proteins to usher in a new era of drug development and more. We start in Laos today, where President Yoon Suk Yeol and his ASEAN counterparts have officially ushered in a new chapter of comprehensive strategic partnership. For details on the day's events thus far, I have our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon standing by live. Do-yeon, start us off.
Subaidi, Sunny, as you said, the dialogue relationship level between South Korea and the ASEAN is now at its highest level at a comprehensive strategic partnership. This had been announced last week prior to Yoon's departure, but it was officially elevated earlier today in light of President Yoon's trip to Vientiane here for the ASEAN summit. First, take a listen to what the President and ASEAN Chair Laos Prime Minister Sonexay Siphandon had to say.
이러한 최고 단계의 파트너십을 바탕으로 한국과 아세안은 새로운 미래의 역사를 함께 써 나갈 것입니다. 한국은 아세안 중시 외교를 이어가는 가운데 공동 번영의 파트너로서 전방위적이고 포괄적인 협력을 추진해 나가겠습니다.
Today's ASEAN-ROK summit provides an excellent opportunity to change the future course for cultivating the ASEAN-ROK comprehensive strategic partnership, which will be officially elevated today, with the goal of enhancing connectivity and resilience for the benefit of the people of ASEAN-ROK and the world.
Now, to put this milestone into context, only 5 out of 11 nations that are in dialogue relationship have won at this highest level. The 2 sides adopted a joint statement also to detail the cooperation in terms of the security aspects. South Korea and the ASEAN touched on each other's major issues, as both sides confirmed to, quote, affirm the importance of maintaining and promoting peace, stability, security, safety, and freedom of navigation in and over flight above the South China Sea in accordance with international law, while ASEAN members backed President Yoon's August 15 unification doctrine, a push for the resuming of peaceful dialogue with North Korea, with denuclearization and maintaining peace on the Korean Peninsula. The 2 sides have agreed on specific ways to enhance economic, environmental, and civilian exchanges as well. There will be a group created for South Korea to assist ASEAN members to digitalize, while another to reduce methane gas emissions. South Korea is also set to host more university students from ASEAN member nations, especially those studying science, technology, and math.
Right, I see. Do-yeon, another key meeting for President Yoon Suk Yeol is the ASEAN +3 summit. What's the latest on that front?
That's right, Sunny. The ASEAN +3 summit is where ASEAN members and the leaders of South Korea, Japan, and China hold a summit. Making his address at this meeting, President Yoon referred to this year's ASEAN summit theme of enhancing connectivity and resilience to propose 3 ways to enhance connectivity between the 3 East Asian nations and ASEAN members. They were connectivity that's institutionalized, connectivity for cooperation in the future areas, and connectivity for civilians. Take a listen.
특히 올해의 아세안 정상회의 주제가 연계성과 회복력의 강화인 만큼 대한민국은 영내 자본과 물자 그리고 사람이 더 자유롭게 흐를 수 있도록 연계성을 강화해 나가고자 합니다. 연계성이 제고되면 위기 앞에서 우리의 회복력도 좋아질 것입니다.
First, institutionalized connectivity pertains to reforming the Chiang Mai Initiative, which arranges currency swaps among members, while the future areas aspect pertains to efforts such as cooperation in electric vehicles. As for the engagements that are coming up, President Yoon is set to join the participating leaders at a gala dinner hosted by the Laos Prime Minister later this evening. Also, before he returns to Seoul tomorrow, he will join the East Asia Summit, where 18 leaders are set to join in for a meeting. It's notable that the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russia's top diplomat Sergei Lavrov will also be present at this meeting. That's all for now. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Doyon, thank you for that coverage. That was our top office correspondent Kim Doyon reporting live from Laos on President Yoon's ASEAN-related agenda. Now, staying in Laos, President Yoon Suk Yeol is partaking in a number of bilateral engagements with his ASEAN counterparts as well. Sitting down with Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh on Thursday, President Yoon touched upon trade, investment and infrastructure cooperation, highlighting their bilateral intentions of securing $150 billion in bilateral trade volume by the year 2030. He also asked for Vietnam's support in promoting Korean business ventures in the Southeast Asian country. As South Korea upgrades its ties with ASEAN to a comprehensive strategic partnership, President Yoon shared hopes for Seoul and Hanoi to further bolster their bilateral economic initiatives as well. Prime Minister Chin, for his part, thanked South Korea for its prompt delivery of $2 million in humanitarian aid in light of the recent devastation amid Typhoon Yagi, calling the support a sign of the strong friendship between the two nations. He also assured that Vietnam would continue to support Korean companies, as South Korea is one of Vietnam's key investment partners. President Yoon is also expected to meet with the leaders of Japan, Thailand, Laos, Canada and Australia during his two-day stay in Laos. Now, there is much anticipation over President Yoon Suk Yeol's upcoming encounter with new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, and our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young reached out to a pundit here for her thoughts. Do take a listen.
They've had their first phone call and a joint multilateral meeting, and now all eyes are on the first one-on-one meeting between President Yoon Suk Yeol and new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, with the two leaders to meet on the sidelines of the Associations of Southeast Asian Nations Summits in Laos this week, just 9 days after Ishiba took office. Observers expect Yoon and Ishiba to both commit to strengthening bilateral relations from the top level.
I think rather than discuss a trilateral cooperation between Korea, the US and Japan, I think the focus would be on bilateral relations between Korea and Japan. They'll likely discuss maintaining the current momentum. And since shuttle diplomacy has already been restored, they might discuss early visits between the two countries.
During the 15-minute phone call last week, Yoon and Ishiba have already agreed to continue the top-level visits between Seoul and Tokyo that Yoon had formed with Ishiba's predecessor, Fumio Kishida. While Yoon and Kishida's friendship may be hard to replicate, experts believe there's more room for bilateral relations to advance, particularly as next year marks the 60th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic relations.
If the two leaders are committed to delivering concrete outcomes, there may even be a joint statement, if not a new declaration. Of course, the U.S. will play a key role in all of this, and the two leaders will need to meet to discuss their views.
Yoon has pushed for the two countries to form a relationship that looks towards the future and jointly address challenges to national and economic security while working separately to resolve historical disputes over Japan's imperial atrocities. This is likely to resonate with the more dovish, Asia-centric Ishiba's views. The former defense minister has also called for stronger security cooperation between Asian countries.
Ishiba places a lot of importance on Japan's national identity and philosophy, so I believe he will aim for broader security cooperation between Korea and Japan, rather than just focusing on historical or territorial issues. He'll likely focus on promoting a relationship centered on security cooperation in East Asia.
Despite the mostly rosy prospects for Seoul-Tokyo ties, experts say it's still early to read the tea leaves, as Ishiba may be constrained by domestic politics, given that he called an early general election for later this month. Also, with the US to see a change of leadership next January, following the presidential race next month, Seoul and Tokyo may also have to recalibrate their trilateral cooperation with Washington in addressing North Korea's security threat, as well as broader challenges in the Indo-Pacific region. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Come next year, South Korea will serve on the UN Human Rights Council, having won its bid for a seat on the board this week. Our correspondent Kim Jung-sil covers the election and its broader implications on North Korea's related violations.
South Korea was elected as a member of the UN Human Rights Council in an election held in New York on Wednesday local time alongside several other countries.
The following 18 states have thus been elected members of the Human Rights Council: Republic of Korea, Spain, Switzerland, Thailand.
This is the 6th time that South Korea will serve as a member since the council was established in 2006. It was among 6 nations that competed for the vacancies in the Asia-Pacific region, along with Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Cyprus, and the Marshall Islands, with Saudi Arabia the only candidate not elected. South Korea got 161 votes out of 190 voting countries. Wednesday's election means South Korea will simultaneously serve on 3 of the UN's major bodies next year: the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, and the Human Rights Council. The Foreign Ministry in Seoul released a statement on Thursday saying that the government will actively participate in international discussions on major human rights issues, including North Korean human rights. The ministry emphasized the country's commitment to universal values and its diplomatic efforts to promote human rights globally. South Korea's 3-year term begins on January 5th, 2025. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, North Korea is reportedly taking steps to permanently sever rail and road links with South Korea, and the Unification Ministry here has strongly denounced the move. Our Kim Bo-kyung reports.
Anti-unification and an anti-national act. This is how South Korea's Unification Ministry on Thursday labeled North Korea's move to cut off all roads and railways connected to South Korea. The General Staff of the North Korean People's Army had informed the United Nations Command of its plans to fortify the shared border with the South on Wednesday morning. The report carried by the Korean Central News Agency said that the project will be launched immediately, while adding it aims to permanently shut off and block the southern border with South Korea. This move is part of North Korea's efforts to pursue a two Koreas policy, as the regime's leader Kim Jong-un vowed not to seek reconciliation and unification with the South at a year-end party meeting in December.
Pursuing the two Koreas policy should be done in 2 parts: amending constitutions and implementations. Many thought constitutional revision would come first, followed by actions. But it appears that the sequence has been changed. First securing a certain level of justification to persuade, and then making constitutional amendments.
The regime convened a key parliamentary meeting, the Supreme People's Assembly, to revise the constitution on Monday and Tuesday, without unveiling whether it removed references to unification, as its leader ordered to do so earlier this year. Kim did not attend the meeting either.
The regime's constitution amendment should have big ripple effects, both domestically and internationally. Considering that, it seems North Korea has decided to see if the situation, including geopolitical landscape, changes, as well as the outcome of the upcoming U.S. election, before revising the constitution.
While the Unification Ministry called the regime's move to block the border an act that dampens aspiration for unification by people in the two Koreas, the Joint Chiefs of Staff said the South Korean military will not overlook any action by the regime to unilaterally change the status quo. It also vowed to overwhelmingly punish not only the very source of the provocation, but also both supporting and commanding forces. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The Nobel Prize in Chemistry this year was granted to 3 individuals who used artificial intelligence to better interpret existing proteins and to custom develop new proteins. Our Isingja tells us what this means.
The 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to 3 scientists who used artificial intelligence to decode and design proteins, the building blocks of life.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has today decided to award the 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry with one half to David Baker, University of Washington, USA, for computational protein design, and the other half jointly to Demis Hassabis and John Jumper, Google DeepMind, United Kingdom, for protein structure prediction.
According to the chair of the Nobel Committee for Chemistry, Heiner Linke, the award recognizes research that discovered a grand challenge in chemistry, and in particular in biochemistry. For decades, scientists have worked to efficiently design new proteins. Baker created a computer program called Rosetta, which analyzes information about existing proteins to build new proteins that don't exist in nature. Through this, any type of protein can be built using the technology, potentially creating treatments for diseases that are currently deemed incurable. Meanwhile, Hassabis and Jumper created an AI model that predicts the structure of 200 million proteins that researchers have identified so far, making it possible to predict the complex structure of the proteins. The scientists from Google DeepMind UK will further provide a deeper database for Baker in creating new proteins. It also marks the second time this year that scientists linked with AI technology have been able to win a Nobel Prize, as Geoffrey Hinton and John Hopfield earlier this week won the Nobel Prize in Physics for their pioneering work in creating the foundations of modern AI. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in the U.S., Hurricane Milton hit Florida Wednesday evening, making landfall near Siesta Key Beach. Packing winds of up to 165 kilometers per hour, the hurricane has been forecast to unleash more than 460 millimeters of rain, triggering landslides and flash floods. More than 2 million homes and businesses have lost access to electricity across Florida, and millions of people have been forced to evacuate as concerns mount over the possibility of remaining debris from Hurricane Helene becoming deadly projectiles amid Hurricane Milton's gales. Also, major airports in Florida have been shut down, with some 2,000 flights cancelled. Back on the local front, strong exports are driving the Korean economy, but sluggish domestic demand is reportedly holding back a full acceleration forward. Now, this is according to the Korea Development Institute's monthly assessment released on this Thursday. Weak construction investment has been cited as reason for the lackluster domestic demand, which has been slow for 11 months in a row since last December. Meanwhile, exports in September posted an on-year surge for the 12th straight month on the back of semiconductor shipments. A growing number of people in the Korean restaurant industry are turning to wholesale marketplaces to better deal with soaring prices of vegetables, whose supplies are being stunted, if you will, by climate change. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin was out and about.
Step inside this wholesale market and you'll be able to see prices from the past. Located in Gyeonggi-do province, this wholesale agricultural market has become a haven for restaurant owners, offering direct purchasing to save on costs. And that's why many, like Kim Tae-ho, who runs a 닭갈비 or spicy stir-fried chicken restaurant, are regulars.
Sometimes I come up to 4 times a week. Lettuces that used to be 15,000 Korean won have surged up to 150,000 won because of the heat wave.
He says he used to purchase vegetables from middlemen, but he now buys them directly from the stall. In September, prices of Napa cabbages were up more than 50% and radishes around 40% compared to the previous year.
Prices are already super high, but what middlemen charge is higher than the wholesale price, which is why I started to come out here.
While the stall owner says Kim isn't the only one who's begun to purchase directly from him since prices have gone up, he says that securing supply hasn't been easy.
There are slightly more people now, and most of them are regulars. But because the weather has been terrible, supply is scarce.
And knowing that his regulars rely on him, he ensures they get the vegetables they ordered at a fair price. After securing his supply, Kim heads straight to his restaurant to prepare for the dinner shift. This involves setting a table with various dishes, most of them vegetable-based, which is why he says the cost of running his restaurant is higher than ever. But because this is due to climateflation, or inflation driven by climate change, long-term solutions such as changing agricultural practices are necessary.
Climate change is worsening. It has gone from global warming to extreme heat waves. There needs to be a strategic relocating of cropland and farms.
He added that customers will also need to become more open to purchasing alternate vegetables if certain types become too expensive. With climate change expected to fuel extreme weather conditions in the future as well, restaurant owners and customers alike are expected to continue to come up with various ways to adjust to higher prices. 이수진, Arirang News.
And in other news, the cabinet today granted the green light to a bill that seeks tougher punishment for deep fake pornography. Under the revised measure, individuals who own or watch such content can face up to 3 years in prison or a fine of 30 million Korean won. Also, those who make and distribute related content will face up to 7 years in prison, longer than the current 5 years. And the prison term for those who blackmail victims with manipulated content will be left open-ended with no fixed limit. The revised bill will go into effect once the president grants his approval. Seoul is hosting an exposition starting today that seeks to offer the public a glimpse of the capital city's future, where advanced technology offers its residents, including the elderly, more comfort and care. Our correspondent Moon Hye-ryun was there.
Smart Life Week at COEX in Seoul offers an insight into the future of urban living under the slogan "Human-centric tech connects to a better life."
Seoul is the first city to host the event, and 115 cities and institutions from more than 70 countries around the world are participating in the exhibition and forums running from Thursday to Saturday.
The smart city that Seoul aims to become is not a cold, mechanical, high-tech city. Rather, it is a city filled with warmth and humanity, where technologies are invisible, but they connect people. The thing is that no one should be excluded from technologies.
The cutting-edge technology on display at SLW aims to show how vulnerable groups can benefit from technological advancements. The aging population in South Korea means that there is a demand for technology to be easily accessible to older groups, both inside and outside the home. This hologram door lock is one such example, prioritizing easy use and enabling non-contact security following the COVID-19 pandemic.
A hologram door lock is more secure than the average lock. As you touch the pads midair, there are no fingerprints or traces left behind. You can also only see the pad from the front and not from the side, so it's hard to tell what numbers I pressed.
Various gadgets inside the house, such as this mirror, enable the elderly to have ready access to emergency care at their fingertips. This doll, called Sunshine, is a talking companion integrated with ChatGPT that can control home appliances as well as offering lonely seniors conversation.
How are you doing today?
Hi, Granny. I'm doing great. I had so much fun playing with my friends today. How about you?
And leaving the tailored comfort of the house, Hyundai Motor's vision for the future sees this mobility pod providing easy transport for wheelchair users, with wheelchair stabilizers, ramps and AI help services. All the things you need can come to you. This health checkup service on wheels has been visiting senior welfare centers in Seoul since the end of August and offers a range of different services such as eye tests. Making services more accessible is at the forefront of much of the technology here, including this AI banking desk that is currently installed in many unmanned bank stops around the country that are open for longer. The overarching message is clear. High-tech urban living is for all walks of life, old or young, and not just one of luxury. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
Today, mild autumn weather is continuing with temperatures at around 25 degrees Celsius nationwide. It had rained in some areas up until this afternoon. From tomorrow, it will be mostly sunny, exceeding daytime temperature averages during the day. The temperature difference between day and night will be very large, around 10 degrees. Please take care not to catch a cold. For the time being, the waves will be high on the coastlines of the Gyeongsang-do provinces and Jeju Island. As waves can cross rocks and break waters, you should pay attention to coastal safety accidents. Tomorrow, Chuncheon and Daejeon will start off at 12 degrees Celsius, Gwangju and Daegu 13 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 25 in Gwangju, Daegu, and Gyeongju, Busan 24 degrees. There will be clear skies by the weekend, so it will be good to do outdoor activities. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, and those are the top stories at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session, so do stay with us.